What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today I figured we'd do something a little bit differently, and rather than being in the office, I wanted to show you guys the investment property that we just purchased. So I figured we would show you guys around the outside, talk about how we found this deal, why it's so unique from every other property we've ever purchased, and why this one took so long for us to actually close in the first place. After we're done doing that, one of the tenants has actually offered to show us the inside so you guys can see. Once we're done doing all that, we're actually gonna head back to the office and we're gonna break down all of the numbers for you. So we're gonna talk about how much we purchased it for, how we secured financing, and how much it makes every month. So this deal has actually been a long time in the making. Last year in November, we actually purchased a duplex from the same sellers that we bought this from. We loved how well they took care of the units. And so as we were closing on that deal, our realtor actually came up to us and mentioned that the same sellers had other properties that they were starting to sell off. They're an older retired couple, and so little by little, they're just starting to sell off all of their properties. And so we told her that, yes, absolutely, we would be interested, and it's finally hit the market. And so we were anxious to pull the trigger. Like I said, it's been a long time in the making. Every month or two, we would call up the realtor and we would say, hey, have the sellers, are they ready to go? Are they ready to sell the property? And she would check with them and no, not yet. So like I said, it's been a long time in the making, but in July, they were finally ready to sell the property, and so we made the move. The numbers on this deal made sense right off the bat. We offered them their purchase price and we just negotiated a couple of closing costs, but other than that, I was ready to go. I think this is a really good example of sometimes you just have to wait for deals to come up, or if you're really persistent, you can find certain things. Like I said, this deal was a year in the making, but we finally snagged it. This property is a little bit unique. As you can see over here, it's not actually a fourplex. So there's a front duplex right here, and then there's another duplex back here behind me. So the reason that this deal is so unique, this couple, they're actually retired school teachers. So when they weren't working in the summer, what they would do is they would just do rental properties. They had this plot of land, and what they did was this unit right over here. You can see that they poured a foundation really high. The walls are about 3 feet compared to most foundations, which are 1 or 2 feet tall. And then they actually moved the house on top of it, making it an over-under duplex. And so one of the things that makes this unit really attractive, like I said, the walls are so high because typically when you have a really low foundation, what happens is the window wells are underground. They knew that this was going to be a basement apartment, and so they didn't want it to be super dark and dreary. So because they poured the walls so high, they were able to have the windows above ground, making it not really feel like a basement apartment. The back two units, they did something really similar. So these two houses right here are actually mobile homes. They're manufactured properties, but what they did was they poured foundations and moved both of the homes on top of the foundations as well. And then I'm not sure if you can see that, but they joined it together. They joined both properties together with a carport. So rather than being two individual single family homes, they turned it into a duplex. Now, the reason we call it a fourplex is because both of the units are actually on the same plot of land. And that'll play into something I'm going to talk about in just a second. So like I said, it's not your traditional fourplex, but there are 4 units all on the same plot of land. The reason that this unit took so long to close, like I said, we made our initial offer in July and it was accepted in July, and it's now the end of October. So while we were doing this, there was a ton of different headaches, a ton of issues came up, and typically you just have a 30-day closing, and we're right around the 90-day mark right now. So some of the things that contributed to the super long closing time is when the feds dropped all the interest rates, our lender got slammed. And so we were trying to just move things along, but because they were so busy, it took a normal 30-day closing to about 65 days. When we got to that 65-day mark, we were ready to close. We had everything in line. Underwriting was done. We were approved. And then they were looking back over the paperwork and they realized that these two properties were manufactured homes. And our lender has a rule, and most lenders have this rule, where they can't loan on mobile homes. I was under the impression that mobile homes were okay to finance as long as they were on permanent foundations, which these two guys were. So that was my misunderstanding, and that's something that I learned in this process. At that point, we were kind of like, great, what do we do? So we want to buy this unit, but we can't buy it because they won't loan on it. So we actually did something a little bit creative. We took this plot of land and we cut it in half right at this line right here. And that way it's not a fourplex anymore. It's not on the same plot of land. And so our bank, they were able to loan on it. So we're actually just getting a loan on the front duplex, and then this back duplex over here, we are seller financing it. And so after doing all that, that actually made it a lot longer in the process. Like I said, we're now, we were about 90 days before we were able to close on this guy. The reason is because once we split off that land, now we had to redo the appraisal on just the front duplex, and we had to just get everything squared away with the lender again. But again, because they were still slammed with all of the refinances and everything because of interest rates, it took another 45 days before that was able to close on this unit. So I think that's a lesson in and of itself. I mean, a lot of investors, especially new investors, they would think, great, the bank, they're not going to loan on it, and so there's nothing we can do. We have to pass on the deal. And that's not necessarily the case. You can be really creative, and I would venture to say that you can make almost any deal work if you're creative enough and you can just figure out, all the solutions to the problem. So this is the inside of the kitchen on a typical unit. All of the units are either 3-bed, 1-bath, or 3-bed, 2-bath. And so it makes for a pretty attractive housing for a good-sized family.
All right, now that we're back in the office, let's talk about some of the numbers. With this property, the original purchase price was $300,000 right on the dot. We gave them their full asking price, but we did negotiate $3,000 in closing costs. I realized that we probably could have haggled a little bit more, maybe gotten them down to $290 or $295. But in our market, it wasn't worth the risk of losing the property. The second that the sellers were ready to sell the property, we jumped on it. Of course, I ran the numbers, made sure that everything worked, but even at their full asking price, it's ready to go and the numbers make sense. After all the stuff with the bank financing happened and we found out we couldn't purchase the property, we had to split the property, we ended up buying just the front duplex for $180,000 and the back 2 units for $120,000. The reason that we did that was because the sellers, they were willing to carry the loan on the back 2 units, but they really truly just want to get out of the real estate game. So they wanted to front load the majority of the cost onto the front duplex best they could, as long as the unit would still appraise for the bank. So we paid $180,000 for the front duplex and $120,000 for the back duplex, grand total of $300,000. As far as down payment goes, we put 15% down on the front duplex and 10% down on the back duplex. After closing costs and everything that had to go into it, we were probably right around the $45,000 mark to be able to purchase both of these duplexes. Through the bank financing, we were able to get a 3.625% interest rate on the front duplex. The sellers on the back duplex were willing to carry the loan for 10 years at a 4% interest rate. That brings our monthly payment to $950 or around there for the front duplex and $750 for the back duplex. That brings our total monthly payment to right around $1,700, and that includes the mortgages and taxes and insurance as well. All 4 of these units were super under rented. So when we purchased the property, one of the units was actually vacant, and so we rented that out at $825, where it had been renting for about $550 before. So we upped rent significantly. The other 3 units probably could be rented out for higher than even that $825 that we did for the 1 unit. But they've got long-term tenants, and 2 of the units have had tenants for 6 years. So we really didn't want to risk losing them. If they're comfortable there and happy there, we said, hey, please stay. We would love to keep you. So their rent was pretty low as well. Their rent was only $525 per month. And so we raised it to 750. But we told them, we said, look, go around town, find a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit, and if you want to leave and move out, you're welcome to. You're not locked into a contract. After they looked at prices and found that a 3-bed, 2-bath was probably around $900 to $950 per month, they're like, yeah, we're okay with 750. So we raised the other units to 750, meaning that we're bringing a gross rent of $3,075 per month. $3,075 minus our $1,700 a month mortgage payment. We take 20% off of the top for vacancy, maintenance, repairs, and capital expenditures, and that brings us right around to $1,100 net per month. Divide that into 4 doors and we get $275 net per month per door. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty happy with an extra $1,100 a month in my pocket. That also comes out to almost a 30% cash on cash return. Typically we shoot for right around $300 per month net per door, and the absolute minimum cash on cash that I'll accept is 20%. So while we're just a little bit less on our cash flow, I'm perfectly fine with it. And we're still above our cash on cash threshold, so I really can't complain. Anyway, that is it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. We're really happy with this fourplex. We're super excited to finally have it closed and have it officially be ours, especially after all the headache and hoopla and everything that we had to jump through. So if you have any questions on this property, feel free to comment down below. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have. And other than that, I think we're good to go. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you guys next week.